everybody, and welcome to another very exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. If you are joining us for the first time today, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And of all days, I'm particularly excited you're joining us today because we are in the midst of my very favorite series, Do Not Tell the Other series, with our amazing folks at Wild Hope. So Wild Hope is an initiative of Tangled Bank Studios, and through their work, they have featured and showcased some of the most tangible, concrete conservation actions happening around the planet. We did an amazing series with them last year. We've got a great one on the go this year. I really encourage you, head to our website, head to the events page, check them all out. And as always, everything we do is on YouTube and will stay there forever. So lots to explore and discover. Now, before I dive in with our specific speakers today, I want to note we do have a Kahoot today. So between our talk and our Q&A, if you want to play along with a little 4-question quiz to test your understanding and have some fun, you can pull up this game pin and we'll get to that in about 20-25 minutes or so. So feel free to check that out. I'll also put that in our YouTube chat as well as the whole Wild Hope series. But without further ado, we are joined live in Washington at the National Zoo to talk about building for birds. I think all of us in our lives, in our homes, in our offices, have seen a bird strike. It's really alarming to see a bird crash into a window. It's not very nice. It's one of the sort of most traumatic things that we'll have in nature as individuals. And the amazing team joining us today at the National Zoo is working to change that building by building through some really incredible, innovative solutions. So these are things that you can take part in as a classroom yourselves. We'll pass along all the details of how to do that at the end. But without further ado, welcome into our noble trio. Thank you so much for joining today and welcome to the broadcast.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello, everybody. Now, I know you've got a really great presentation to share with us, and we're going to dive in with that in like 2.2 seconds. But what I want to start with is a little 1-minute clip from Wild Hope so you can get a sense of their full episode and people can learn a little bit about what you do before we dive in. So if that all sounds good, I'll cue that up and we'll get underway. Thanks, you three. Here we go.
We save species here at the zoo, but that also includes the wild birds coming through during migration.
Even the strongest and the smartest birds can collide with windows. I myself have collided into many a sliding glass door.
It's a bit of a tedious task, but we have perfected the technique.
When you cover a window with dots, you know that that's a window that's most likely not going to have a bird strike.
Super cool, you three. And Brian, the fact that you were willing to say you've walked into windows live on a camera for a documentary is really, if I knew nothing else about you than that, I'd be delighted. And I too have walked into many a window, so it's a hard thing to sometimes to notice.
Yeah, sure is.
Well, that's a great intro to the amazing work that you guys are up to. So I'm going to leave it to you. Your presentation is up. If you want to dive in and take us away and tell us a little more about what you do, let's do this thing.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, hello, everyone. My name's Sarah Halliger. I'm the curator of birds. We're here, as Jesse said, today in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian's National Zoo. As curator of birds, I care for a lot of different kinds of animals. Shown here is one of our baby ducks that recently hatched and a flamingo. And I also manage a large group of diverse keepers. And together we make a great team that manages a collection of nearly 500 birds.
Hi everyone, my name is Tara Stedkin, and I'm the manager of the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center's Bird Observatory. And I study wild birds in cities, fields, forests, all sorts. But I also do a whole bunch of other stuff, from flying drones to teaching students how to do research.
And I'm Brian Evans. I'm a migratory bird ecologist at the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center, and I'm a scientist who studies birds that's an ornithologist. And I really research how different birds survive, especially songbirds survive across different types of environments. But I do a whole bunch of other stuff just like Tara does. I teach a great group of interns and students how they can study birds and horses, apparently. And the work we do, Sarah, Tara, and myself, we're super passionate about this, and we're super dedicated to our work because we know that we've lost a ton of birds. In the last 50 years, we've lost almost 3 billion birds in North America alone. And that's a reduction in more than a quarter of the population, more than 1 out of 4 birds.
Especially our migratory birds, which are birds that spend their winters and their summers in different parts of the world, have been especially hard hit.
So here at the National Zoo, we help convey that message about how important birds are to everyone. We have a beautiful new birdhouse that opened in 2023, and this is where the observatory is based. It's where we are here today. And it's our mechanism for reaching the public about the causes of bird decline in North America and the easy actions that every single one of us can take that really make a difference to help save birds.
And one of the largest direct human causes of bird death is collisions with windows. Birds don't know what glass is, and we keep putting windows in their habitat.
Yeah, it's really a shame. So there's these great programs out there like Lights Out DC, Lights Out Baltimore. There's Lights Out programs across the country that wake up early in the morning and walk the city streets looking for birds that may have struck a window. And here's an example here. This is a Baltimore Oriole. This is a Baltimore Oriole that struck a window right outside of Washington, D.C. and was found on the sidewalk under the tall buildings of the city.
But it's not only tall buildings where birds hit, it's also our homes. So of the estimated billion or plus more birds that hit glass every year in the United States alone, half of those collisions occur at home. And we also had noticed collisions here at the National Zoo.
Passed too much.
So these windows are from a building at the zoo, and they're a great example of how windows can pose a big threat to birds. So in the window on the lower left, we can see that it is reflecting the vegetation that is outside. And on the windows on the right, you'll see vegetation on the inside, but you'll also see that reflection. So birds perceive this as being a place that they can fly, a place that they can land.
I'm also seeing something else in this picture, Tara. I'm seeing decals on the windows. And this is a common idea that people can put up decals of birds of prey or other birds, and that will prevent collisions. Unfortunately, it does not work at all. It's not an effective solution.
But fortunately, there is a great solution. We call it bird-safe glass. And treatments like these lines or these dots break up the reflection and prevent birds from hitting glass. And they can't see their reflection.
And birds know exactly how big their bodies are and what spaces they can or can't fit through.
And that's why there's special dot tape that's made where the spacing is every 2 inches. If it's every 2 inches, the bird knows it cannot pass through, cannot fly through that space.
So here at the National Zoo, at the birdhouse, we were the first building in Washington, D.C. constructed with bird-safe glass. You can see there's horizontal lines that are spaced every 2 inches. That was built into the glass. But when we started looking around the rest of the park at the zoo, we noticed that there were a lot of older buildings that were not treated with bird strike material. And we found that those were a danger to birds.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was pretty heartbreaking. So we really flapped our wings and launched into action to address it. Sorry, guys.
So because we know the solution works and we know that it's such a big issue, the three of us teamed up and we had a mission to make most glass as much as we could safe at the National Zoo. And you can see in some of the pictures here, that is exactly what we are doing.
And to date, we've treated over 5,000 square feet of glass at the zoo. That's in about, how long has it been?
It's about a year.
In about a year,
Yeah.
5,000 square feet of glass.
That's a lot of glass.
It's a simple solution that we know will prevent these bird strikes.
And we've gotten to do it in some pretty cool places. In this slide on the image on the right, we were installing these dots on the glass at the Great Cats exhibit while a seemingly hungry tiger stared at us from the other side.
Look for a meal. So I want to take a moment to hold up this glass.
So you at home can help prevent window collisions too.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry.
So the dots that we use here at the zoo are one option, but you can also use something like tempera paint. You can take a bar of soap and draw lines on your window. You can even hang pieces of string or rope from your window. And these solutions may not last as long like the soap and the paint, but if we follow that 2-inch spacing rule, and if we treat our windows during fall and spring migration, we can save the lives of millions of birds.
And you can have a lot of fun with it too. This is a super cool example from the cafeteria of the school where I teach. So they have this artist come in and make this design with a pattern every 2 inches that's preventing bird strikes, and it's really super beautiful too.
And you can get your friends, your family, your neighborhood, your community, anyone you know can get involved in this effort.
And these are veterinarians in this picture, and one of our friends, Allie, who's putting on bird dots. So the dots are one thing, right? Preventing these collisions is one thing, and it's really successful, but there's a lot of things that we can do. If you live in a building where you can't prevent bird strikes, maybe you live on the 15th floor, there are other steps that you can take that's going to help birds.
So we refer to these as the 7 simple actions. These are easy things that all of us can do together to make a difference for birds. You can keep your cat indoors. You can plant native plants. You can, if your parents drink coffee, you can drink bird-friendly coffee. You can watch birds and help contribute to data that's being collected on bird populations. In addition to the dots that we've been talking about. There's a number of things that together combined make a real big difference, positive impact on saving our birds. So for example, here's a picture of the arrival area of the birdhouse. This is when it was first planted up. It's a lot more lush now, but we really emphasize here the importance of using native plants. These are plants that are native to North America. These are plants that birds are evolutionarily evolved to eat the fruit that the leaves that these plants provide. It's also really important not to use pesticides. And so we talk about that here at the birdhouse. That's an easy thing. If you have a garden at home, try and encourage your folks to plant native plants. And there's lots of resources to help identify what constitutes a native plant.
And part of the reason this is so important is because native plants help to support our caterpillars. And our caterpillars are super, super important for birds, especially when our birds are very young and they're in the nest. Those caterpillars are so important for their development so that those birds grow up successfully.
And that's a picture of you doing a community science project, right?
It is. There's a community science project called Caterpillars Count that we take part in here at the observatory.
Of course, caterpillars are one thing, but lurking in the shadows is a terrible predator.
Oh my gosh.
Just looking to catch birds. So making sure we keep our cats indoors is critical.
Keeping our cats inside, free roaming domestic cats globally, but in the United States, take millions and millions and millions of birds every year. I have a cat. I love my cat. It stays inside though. Keep your cat inside. It will be happier, healthier. It won't be hit by cars. It won't be susceptible to diseases, and you will help save birds.
And one of the really big ways that you can help save birds is to actually watch birds, to see what they're doing, to follow them around the environment, to get connected to the birds themselves. And that connection, you can actually contribute to scientific data by joining community science projects. So here I have the Seek app on my phone. You can join eBird, you can join iNaturalist and share what you see. We all appreciate it, and it's really helping the scientific community understand what's happening to our birds in a big way. And it's super fun. We all love watching birds. So there's a bird flying out of my intern's hand back in Texas. Common yellow throat. So thank you very much. We're happy to take any questions here. And I think we've got a Kahoots quiz coming up soon, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
We do as well. Well, for you three, if you want to come out of screen share so you can see us, make sure we can have a bit of a conversation. That was lovely. I've got to say, professional detachment out the window. You are the group with the most chemistry we've ever had live on camera. Margin. So way to go. Your work together extends beautifully to the education realm. And also the most props we have had in a broadcast in some time. So thank you for that too. Folks, yeah, we are going to dive in with our Kahoot really fast. We've got a whole bunch of kids, again, from all over the continent joining us for that. So for you three as well, for a Kahoot, the faster people answer, the more points they get. And what they win is all of our everlasting respect. So we are going to bring this up, and kids, get your hands at the trigger fingers ready for this. There's a bunch of you already in. Use our game pin, and you three want to help us out with any hints as we go through the Kahoot. You are welcome to chime in and point us in the right direction. But we're going to get underway with this shortly, and then we're going to head to our Connecticut class live for some questions. YouTubers, please do share your questions in the chat. We're going to take a bunch of those, but let's do this thing and get underway. And I'm a little biased, but I hope a bird name wins our bird Kahoot. Let's see how it goes. Here we go. All right. So our first question is not so much related to our birds. It's who was paying attention at the beginning of where our three are joining us today, the Smithsonian National Zoo. I've seen this place in person. I've been here. It's a lovely, lovely spot. It might be given away in this picture for anyone who knows monuments in the United States. Let's see. New York, Washington, LA, get those answers in. I honestly think that there's no city in the world that has a greater wealth of amazing history, nature, science, education places on this planet. Like Washington does an incredible job. The Smithsonian in particular does an amazing job. And audience, you guys, you killed it. You almost all got that right. Way to go. Yeah. All right. Honest Badger has our lead. We go to question 2 together. How many birds have we lost since 1970? So we had this chart up a few times. Is it 1 million? Is it 2.9 million? Is it a billion? Is it 2.9 billion? Now, we've actually featured this exact image in a lot of our bird programs this year. This is a really iconic bit of research from the last few years. And it's a disheartening bit of research, but it's very, very important for us to know. So let's see what we get with 2 more seconds. Yep. Ooh, a lot of you thought 2.9 million. You're confused? Yeah. So a billion is 1,000 million. It's a lot more. It's way, way more. And so it really underscores how many birds have been lost and why the work of our amazing trio and so many other bird conservationists are so, so important. So there we are, folks. Cute Otter takes our lead. There's no birds anywhere in that leaderboard. I don't know what's going on. All right. This is an easy one. I hope we all get this right. Window strikes are one of the biggest dangers for birds. We talked about a few others at the end of the program as well. Cats is a really big one. This is something that we've talked about in a lot of bird programs as well, but certainly in the building for birds angle, this is a big one. I love that you highlighted particularly that the decals or decals, I always call them decals, are not effective. Because when I was a boy, we learned that they were effective. Like we were told by our classrooms, and I think a lot of people still think that, and it's really important that we design in a way that actually impacts birds in a positive way, right? Where they're not going to fly in. So thank you for that insight. Yeah. Right. 2 of you thought no. Well, yes, it was definitely window strikes are a big threat to birds. Go watch the program again. It's on YouTube. This is a multi-select. There's more than one right answer to what can we do to help. It might be all of them. It might be 2. Can you tell your friends and family what you learned today? Can you keep your cats indoors? Can you plant native pollinator gardens? Can you take action to prevent birds hitting windows? Or hint, hint, nudge, nudge? Maybe all of those things. In fact, if I do a Kahoot and there's a multi-select, you can be pretty assured in our final week and a bit of the school year that it's going to be all of them. So that's your play for the next time you play a Kahoot with us. Yes, all 4 are correct. There's even more that we highlighted in the broadcast. So again, check that out. They're all really easy solutions we can do at home. All right, Polite Boas in 3rd, Cute Otters in 2nd, and first for all the marbles, drum roll please, is Baby Bird. It's amusing goat, not a bird, but thank you so much for playing along, everybody. And now we're going to dive in with questions. So our Connecticut class, I'm going to come to you guys in a second, give you a second to put your thinking caps on. We'll take some from our YouTube groups. Miss Hunter's class wants to know what the difference is between stripes and dots. You highlighted 2 solutions there. Does it matter, or is it just the 2-inch thing?
They're both effective. They're just 2 different aesthetics for doing so. But as long as they have that 2-inch spacing between whatever pattern you choose to put up, it is equally as effective.
Yeah. A great follow-up to this, and this is a question that I've had in broadcast before, where can we get the tape? Like if someone wanted to have the exact thing you were putting up, is there a depot for that or a store, or what's the deal?
This particular tape comes from a company called Feather Friendly, but there are other organizations that sell what's called bird friendly tape. But this is just where this particular company we ordered this roll from.
Fantastic. I'll make sure our class. Oh, there we are. Thank you.
There you
Brian,
go.
you got all the props, man.
Feather Friendly
Cool.
has a few different ways for treating your windows. The dots are what we use here at the zoo. They also have tape. They have like sheets that you can put up that are easier for bigger windows. So there's plenty of options.
Well, and you gave the soap option. So if all our kids go home today and soap up their windows and the parents are like, what's going on? We can tell them that they watched the Building for Birds program and that we're given explicit permission by our science team. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah.
Great job. Great question, guys. All right, we're going to head to our live class with the kid at the camera. Hello, joining us there, Mrs. Shannon, Mrs. Erickson. Hi.
Hi, I have a question. How do boats help the environment?
Ooh, how do they help the environment?
They do a whole bunch of stuff in the environment. So one thing they do is we have a bird here called a ruby-throated hummingbird that acts as a pollinator. So it actually helps plants by pollinating those plants. Sometimes they can eat, ruby-throated hummingbird. Nice. They also eat bugs. So on coffee farms, they're known to reduce pest insects that are actually really harmful to the crops. So there's a load of different things that they do.
Yep. That's a great question. I always love when we have kids ask about sort of the value of animals. And I always like to highlight too, like every creature on this planet, every plant, every fungi has inherent worth. Like who are we to come in and cause the extinction of something? So it's really important that, we notice that as well. But just in general, wildlife makes the world richer. If you go out in a park and there's no bird song and there's no plants and there's nothing going on, it's a much more bereft place than if you go and you're surrounded by wildlife. And I hope you all get that chance to go to a park. Maybe it's a state or provincial park, a national park in Canada or the US. Like these are some of the most special places in the world because they have wildlife. And people travel all around the world to go see that sort of wildlife. So find it in your own garden with those amazing apps that we shared earlier in the program. But I do love that question. And there really is values like that to every species that we could feature. So thanks, guys. Yeah. All right. So many questions coming in on YouTube. This is great. An impossible question, but I'm going to ask it just the same. And I know I'm frozen. There we go. How many birds have been saved from things like this? Is there a way of collecting data like that with something like a Lights Out program? Do we know how effective it is?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good one.
I know that the treatments are 95% effective. So my assumption is however many birds have hit a window, that minus 95%.
Bird strike, these treatments in windows is fairly relatively new within the past couple decades. So I think a lot of the data is still being collected. But yes, it's an excellent question. And I think the answer is we don't know.
And that's a great answer. But I do the 95%. So that's like we're assessing a window, we're assessing a building, we're seeing how many bird strikes we see. And once you put it on, it's 95% effective.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah.
So again, with billions of birds hitting windows all around the world, that is tremendous. If we could scale that up, and you guys have done a tremendous job at the zoo. What a great, I didn't know that. That's fantastic. I learned something new in every one of these programs. It's one of the great joys of being a host. All right, Miss Riddle's class in Nova Scotia, they want to know, has there ever been a city or town that changed their building legislation to mandate for these bird strike windows? And you're all nodding, which is fascinating. Phil.
Washington, D.C., right where we are. When was it?
Many. Washington, D.C., I believe was in... within the past year or so, but large cities, New York,
San
Francisco, possibly Chicago, Houston, big urban cities are changing their legislation. Toronto, Canada, I believe.
Hometown.
So yeah, Washington, D.C. was the latest, but it's happening all over the world, really, that people are finally recognizing this problem and changing legislation.
And that's through grassroots movement. It's through people getting together and going to their city and saying, we need to prevent window strikes in our town or city or what have you.
So let me get this straight, because you said you were the first building in Washington to put this up. So you're the first to put it up, and then you start putting it up everywhere, and you use your own science knowledge and the power of the zoo, and you are such good advocates that now the whole city's doing it. So bravo to you three.
Actually,
amazing.
Of the DC legislation that was passed was a large part of that was from the Lights Out program and city wildlife having that impact.
Really briefly, when I looked up Lights Out, it looks like it's affiliated with the Audubon Society, if that's correct. Okay, so I had shared that in the chat for everyone as well. There's an abundance of amazing bird-related organizations. The Audubon Society, Cornell Lab for Ornithology, which you featured in one of your slides earlier, iNaturalist and Seek, eBird is an amazing one solely for birds. Like, if you're keen on birds, that's the best group of animals to be interested in on planet Earth. There's a lot of interest. So get out there and explore. And keep up this enthusiasm, guys. This is great. Okay, back to our Connecticut class. Mrs. Shannon, Mrs. Erickson's class. If you want to come on with another question, I can bring you up. Let's see if you're good to go. Hello, folks. If you're around the corner.
I think we're good to go.
You're good to go? Okay, if you have another question?
No, we're all set.
You're all set. Okay. I can come back anytime if you have it, so you can bring someone up in front of the camera and we'll go from there. But I like that you've learned everything. That's fantastic. Miss Sawani's class at our Peel Virtual Elementary School. Do birds get dizzy while flying? Is that maybe why they hit windows? Can you explain a little bit more about why they're such a threat?
So they don't get dizzy while flying, but there is something similarly related that is another action we can take to help prevent windows, and that is turning off our lights at night and reducing the amount of artificial light that we have in the environment at nighttime. A lot of our migratory birds migrate and fly at night at very, very high altitudes, and having light in the environment can confuse them, disorient them, and throw off some of their navigation. And then when they go back down to ground level during the day to stop there, rest, and refuel, then they're in this unfamiliar environment, and they're more likely to hit windows.
Yeah.
And they can't see the glass. They're not hitting the sides of windows, right? They're not hitting brick walls.
Yeah.
They're hitting glass because they can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at how a bird's eyes are positioned, let me grab a bird right here. If we look at how a bird's eyes are positioned on its face, they're sorted to the side instead of straight out front like we have.
Like ours, yeah.
So having them to the side, if they're flying at a window, they aren't seeing that window directly ahead until potentially it's too late. So it's about that behavior, and it's how they're structured as well. Oh, and this is a northern flicker.
I was going to ask, they're one of my favorite birds in the world. If you've never seen a northern flicker, look them up, everybody. They're very, very cool. But you hit up on a big point here, because when we're kids, we grow up with mirrors, we grow up with reflective surfaces, glass everywhere if you're humanity. And these birds have been around for millions and millions of years, and glass and huge buildings that are all glass are a very recent invention to them. So if you're migrating, this is not something that you've built up any sort of evolutionary defense to. And it's really, really important that we do things like these solutions to help mitigate that impact. You talked about the lights too. If I'm not mistaken, the World Trade Center Memorial has a huge light that comes from it, and they turn that off during major bird migration season, which is such an amazing gesture and such an amazing thing in one of the biggest cities in the world to help save birds. So people are really taking action all around this planet. And so I harp on that, because we've lost 2.9 billion birds, but in the last few years especially, there's been such an upwelling of support for things like mandating bird safe glass and beyond. It's a really exciting time for conservation. So thanks.
Really?
Yeah. All right. Back to Connecticut. You are at the camera. Take us away. Hey.
Hi. I have a question. Is there any other animals that are big threats to birds besides cats?
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah, there are. So in terms of animals that we've introduced snakes across islands that have fundamentally made a couple birds go extinct or extinct in the wild. That's pretty tragic when we move them across. Rats, Norway rats, we've brought rats around to different islands, and they can really decimate nestlings in a big way.
We've actually covered the rats in the island. I forget what island it is right now off the top of my head that eat the albatross chicks and go for them. So, if you go back through our YouTube history and if you look up impacts on birds around this planet, that moving of species is really big. We also bring birds to places that they're not meant to be. Starlings are a great example in North America that are not native here and have completely taken over and taken up habitat and the niche of other birds. So, it's again a lesson that we're learning in the last few decades, which is that we should try to minimize our impact in terms of moving species around. And a lot of places like Hawaii have really, really strict rules about bringing in animals. Now, Australia, because of the impact that they've had to their native population. So I love this question. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's a great question.
All right. On either really easy or a very challenging question, one I knew we'd get, for each of you, do you have a favorite bird? No pressure at all.
I'll go last.
Yeah.
No, I like all birds because
Okay.
I always kind of joke that if I said what my favorite bird was, then the other birds would be jealous.
Very jealous.
I don't like to say what my favorite bird is.
I'll say what my favorite bird is.
Do it.
I have a pet pigeon named Quinn, and he is my favorite bird in the world.
That's awesome.
Brian.
Mine changes every day, but we were surrounded in the woods by yellow-breasted chats the other day on their migration north, and they're so curious and they're so fun. They make all these weird beeping and barking and meowing sounds, and it just made for a mystical and beautiful experience while we were there.
Oh, I bet. I was surrounded by about 100 Blue Jays once. And I mean, as a Torontonian, that's a very big thing for us. That was majestic. On the pigeon note, I'm going to be nerdy here for a second. We've run into a lot of ornithologists on this broadcast, and it's really odd, but almost universally, people, when we ask them, oh, what's your favorite group of birds? People are like, pigeons, and here's why. So thank you for that. They have a bit of a bad rap in the world, and I encourage all our students, check out pigeons in their full diversity, but they're a very, very special group of animals.
Yeah.
They're really cool to watch, too.
Really cool to watch. Awesome. Okay, a couple more questions before we wrap up. Time flies and you're having fun in these broadcasts. So Miss Riddle's class wants to know, are there colors that maybe birds can't see or can see in a different way that might impact how we create these sorts of things for windows? And if you want to segue this into explaining that birds do see a little bit differently than people, that would be very cool.
Yeah, birds do see colors. They can see colors that we can't see. So a lot of the features of these bird tapes that we've been talking about have UV qualities that birds can see, but we can't. A lot of colors that look maybe look yellow to us, maybe look bright white to a bird. We're actually very conscious of that here at the zoo. For example, when it's a rainy day, like it's going to be tomorrow, the zoo used to issue yellow raincoats. Well, if we're walking outside in a bird yard in a yellow raincoat, the birds would often be quite alarmed because to them, it looks like this bright white creature coming towards them. So birds can see into the UV spectrum where we can't. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. And I don't know if Brian or Tara, if you have anything else to add about color.
Maybe about what we can see. So if you put up a window prevention, if you can't see it, the bird can't see it. And that's an important point. Even though birds see into the UV spectrum, it's not like you can put magical dots that we can't see that birds do.
I will also add that to us, for example, Jesse, you mentioned like the European starling earlier. To us, that may just look like a black bird. But to another starling, it's a beautiful array of purples and blues and greens that we can't even see or appreciate. Yeah. So, yeah.
And on the ultraviolet note, like I love I encourage you to look up flowers and how they look in the UV, because flowers almost universally have like big beacons and like arrows pointing to the middle for the nectar. Like they're guides for animals that see in a different way than us. And flowers on this planet in general, like based in their color, will be pollinated by different things. Red flowers are usually birds. White flowers are often bats or moths or things at night. And that's just such a cool bit of science. And so it's a fantastic question. Thank you, Mrs. Riddle, so much.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to head back to Connecticut for one more live, and then we'll wrap up after that. Take us away, folks, and go for it. Hi.
When birds hit the windows, do they like become paralyzed? Like what happens?
Great question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they die right away. Others will hit a window and they'll be able to fly away, but they'll sustain injuries that cause them to either be more susceptible to predators or just die of their injuries later on.
Yeah.
The number of bird strikes is now estimated to be much higher than 1 billion birds because of this recent understanding of birds hitting glass. They fly away, they seem fine, but then they later go on to die or be taken by a cat. So yes, it is there is a lot of internal damage when birds hit. It's pretty sad.
And
Please.
if you think about these migrating birds, especially the birds that are migrating through, they live on this tightrope walk. It takes everything they have to migrate, and a lot of them aren't going to make it. So even a minor injury could lead to a failed migration. Even a minor injury would mean that a bird that, spends its winter time in Costa Rica and spends its summertime in southern Canada, that bird needs everything to work out just right to make that journey.
Yep.
Especially a little songbird like a black and white warbler.
Like, they're so tiny. We've actually done live bird releases where they catch them in mist nets out in Idaho. The Boise State folks do an amazing job with that. I encourage our classes to check that out too. But again, this is a journey that's unlike anything that humans could even do. I mean, they're so tiny. The food reserves that they need to build up for this, it's like the greatest journey of their lives. And we want to make sure that as people, we're doing everything we can to not get in their way so that they can complete that journey and just, again, make a richer world for everybody. So it's a great question, guys. You guys are a fantastic audience today. We're going to take one more, but it just slipped in the chat, and then we'll wrap up. Farouk wants to know if different times of day or season affect bird strikes, which is a really neat question.
Oh, it's a great question.
So migration during spring and fall are big times for window collisions. Like we were talking about earlier, migratory birds are in these new unfamiliar environments that we have changed quite a bit, and that makes them more susceptible. During fall migration, you have a lot more birds in the environment, and a lot of them are fledglings, and fledglings are still trying to figure out how living works. They aren't always great at it. So they're also more susceptible. But a lot of window collisions happen during the day when our migratory birds come down from their long flights to refuel for their next stage of the journey.
And I'll use this wood thrush to describe it. So a bird like this is going to be migrating at night. So it's actually migrating at night through the stars, and it's landing someplace during the day to fuel up. It's in that fueling up phase, eating as much as it possibly can. That's when it's susceptible to window collisions in a big way.
Yep. Farouk, that's a great question, man. And I encourage our classes too. We got a lot of groups in Southern Ontario today. If you get to go to a place where bird migration sort of amass, like Long Point in Ontario, Prince Edward County, like these are some of the most special places in the world where you can see hundreds of species of birds in the fall. It's really, really neat. We've done a bunch of broadcasts on it in the past. So go check that out. It's so enriching to see them flourishing, and it'll underscore why it's so important to help protect them with things like this. So this has been a really, really fun broadcast. Thank you three so much. Before we wrap up and bring in our classes to say farewell, is there any last message you want to leave us with about your work at the Smithsonian, about saving birds, anything before we say goodbye?
I think the most important thing for us is that everyone knows that they can play a part in helping to support bird populations. And if you care about birds, then absolutely, take these actions, find out what else you can do, because we've lost so many birds, and it is such an important thing.
That's a great point. Absolutely.
Please, Brian, sorry.
Oh, I'll just add, outside of birds itself, it's okay to love nature. It's okay to be passionate about nature, and sharing that passion with your friends, that's how we're going to get to a solution.
We had that at the end of the Kahoot, and I think it really is a big point for kids. If you're in grade 3, it can be hard to do some of these things yourself. Sometimes you've got to convince your parents, your teachers, what have you, but we can all appreciate nature. And if you love the natural world around you, and if you seek it out and try and learn from it, when I was a 10-year-old boy, I went in my backyard and found 72 species of insect, bird, mammal, and there's so much diversity out there, whether you're in a national park or whether you're in the heart of a major city like Washington, New York, Toronto, what have you. So get out, explore, tell your family and friends that you learned today. It all makes a really big difference. So thank you three so much. We'll wrap up there. We're going to bring in our Connecticut class to say a big thank you and farewell. If you're at home on YouTube and you want to scream and yell and annoy the principal, you have our permission, please do. But thank you so much, Mrs. Shannon, Mrs. Erickson's class, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. We'll see you all soon. Thank you so much. And bye for now, everyone. Farewell.